Here's a quick look at the Severe Storm Data Lab. Down here is the link to the Storm Prediction Center's website where the data is available. And here's the assignment. The assignment is fairly straightforward. Your job is to create a PowerPoint presentation showing the results of at least 5 queries. For each query, use one slide to describe your query in the form of a question to be answered from the presented data. Show and discuss the results of your query in text, a few words, and in graphical form if appropriate on another slide or two. This PowerPoint here is a sample template example of the sort of format I'd like you to have. Don't use this exactly word for word, but just use it as a guide. I'll look at this a little bit later. But let's go ahead to the data site here. And on the data site, you've got a map of the United States. And there's further discussion about this data site later on in another video. But for right now, we'll set the begin date for a query. In this case, it's 1990-01-01. So that's January 1st, 1990. And the time of day is about 4 in the morning for 12 o'clock, 1200 Greenwich Mean Time is about 4 in the morning Pacific Standard Time. And then the end date is 1999-12/31, so December 31st, 1999. So this gives us the decade of the 90s, example of how to get the decade of the 90s. The other thing I did is I only selected F3 as the minimum to F5 for the maximum. So I've ignored the smaller tornadoes, the F0, the F1s, and the F2s. And this gives me a smaller amount of data that comes in. It's really easy to clog this system up. The other thing I've done is I've unchecked the wind and I've unchecked the hail, again, to minimize the data. If I'm interested in wind events or hail events, I should look at those separately, just so I don't bog the system down. Now, I'll click the Submit button, and this will give me the results of the query. And down in the lower left-hand corner here, it shows me the total number of tornadoes that were F3, F4, or F5. For the whole decade of the 1990s was 487. The total number of deaths, tornado deaths, was 494, and injuries 8,055. And the total estimated damage in millions of dollars, well, this would be about 3.08 or $3.09 billion, $3,088 million. Okay, so that's the basic idea. You can select your birth date if you want to as a query, what happened on your birth date. And if you're just going to select a day or a month, you could probably go ahead and ask for data on tornadoes, wind, and hail all at once if you wanted to. Or you could just focus on tornadoes, wind, or hail on those. You could focus on a particular state using the zoom feature and a certain period of time, either the decade of the 80s, 70s, or what have you. And you can zoom by just clicking here on, for example, Washington State. Maybe I can get one more click right in the center of the state. And I might be able to zoom one more time, but let's see. Yeah, if I do that, that's mostly Washington State. I've got a little bit of Oregon and a little bit of Idaho included in there, but that's not too bad. And my start date and end date are still the same, 1990, 1999. And so, but this case, I'm going to go F0 to F5, all tornadoes for the state of Washington. And click on this, because Washington doesn't have many tornadoes. And in this case, we only had 35 tornadoes looking down here for the decade of the 90s. So that could be an example of a query. How many tornadoes did Washington State have in the decade of the 90s? I'll say a little bit more about the PowerPoint here in a second with another video.